Listen, guys, this is what he doing.
Jeffrey, I feel like I used to hate that name so much, but now I'm understanding the name.
In order to truly understand the brand known to the world as Young Thug, we got to work backwards and really look at not only the evolution of Jeffrey, the star qualities of Young Thug, the rise of YSL, but we got to work backwards to where it all started.
I want to be who I really am. I'm really Jeffrey.
I'm Young Thug, aka Jeffery. I'm from Jonesboro South. Born there, stayed there, still there. I'm 19. I like rapping. I like money too.
What was one of the first times you heard of Young Thug?
I would say, personally for me, I started paying attention in 2011. That's when he was featured on a mixtape by Rich Kids, a $100 autograph. And for many of us in Atlanta, that was our introduction to Young Thug. And then what we started to see was, that was also around the same time that the confidence started to match the work ethic. And then he took off.
Next thing you know, you're gonna hear about a $10, $15 million deal, man, Live. You're looking at it right now, you're looking at a $10, $15 million deal, man, in the future, you know what I'm saying?
At first glance, his come-up story is similar to a lot of other artists in Atlanta. You find a way to make it out of harsh conditions. You're handed nothing but hard times. Winning under those kind of circumstances gives you an extra layer of resiliency where you're prepared for anything life throws at you. What is it like to chase your dream in Atlanta? To start off with nothing, start off in Jonesboro South, start off in Zone 3, start off in Sylvan Hill with nothing.
It would be likened to the idea, or similar to the thought of walking in a store and buying a lottery ticket that hit the Mega Millions. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, well, in that case,
he didn't come from, a family that knew how to get him in front of people. Man, these kids were running the streets lost.
Another night of crime in an Atlanta public housing development.
My name is Tyrone Dennis. I'm a retired Atlanta police detective. There are 6 zones. Zone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Zone 1 is your west side. Zone 2 is Buckhead, north end of the city. Zone 3 is towards the south. Zone 4 is southwest. Zone 5 is downtown, midtown, things like that. Zone 6 is East Atlanta. When you say you're from these different housing projects, it's almost like a stamp badge of I got it out the mud.
So Jonesboro South, Cleveland Avenue, especially during 80s, 90s. It's a black community. Predominantly black community.
Jonesboro South, to this day, when you say that name, it still resonates with Atlanta because it means something and it represents something. Before it was demolished in 2009, it raised generations of Atlanta from the moment it was constructed in 1970 up until 2009. So there's a sense of nostalgia to it that even though it's gone, it still represents and reflects an era that was so important to this city and to the culture.
But at the same time, there's crime, it's high crime. A lot of drug dealing, just a lot of, poverty over there.
I see people get shot.
Anybody can get hurt out here.
When you from Cleveland down to Jonesboro Road, man, like Jonesboro South and where I'm from, like, if you really put your mind to something, no matter what, if it's some street, gonna get some money. I've been rocking with Thug before the music. Oh, I already knew that was gonna be big. After I didn't know he was gonna be that big. He didn't have a talent at the time that was easily recognizable by the people who were in position. So he kinda had to work a Rubik's Cube to find himself in a position to not only where he could present his art to people, to where the people he was presenting to could actually understand the art he was presenting. And he really built an entire...
He was ahead of its time.
Completely ahead of it. It's still ahead of its time today.
I mean, I ain't gonna say it came overnight. I ain't gonna say I wanted to do it. I been knew how to rap. A long time ago, I been knew how to rap. Nobody didn't believe in me.
His voice was so distinctive. It was like, wow, this is like something that we've never heard before. So it was like a very interesting style of rap that we had never really heard before.
I met Thug through Pee Wee Longway.
Pee Wee Longway, someone he grew up with in Jonesboro South, ended up introducing Thug to Gucci in a recording studio. And that very moment really catapulted his career because it took that connection for everything else to make sense in his career.
So did you know he was going to be a star?
From that one I knew, you know.
And then from that day on, Thug, that same day, Thug didn't leave the studio. He spent the night there.
It's like somebody put something in their body or something. He different.
But Young Thug was able to kind of just like put out songs and you know, especially in Atlanta, they became club hits.
They my people, that's my best friend, that's my best friend. Bless me.
We're creative people, we're hardworking people, and more importantly, we're people that have dealt with so many things that went against us, that we're built for this too.
Yeah, when was the first time you felt like Gunna started to take off?
I mean, here in Atlanta, we've been paying attention to Gunna before he blew up. I was hosting a 2018 showcase for BMI. It was kind of like the Who Got Next in Atlanta. And I would even say that was around the same time that the YSL brand really became synonymous with Atlanta music and the record label took off. So for Gunna, it was important. For the label, it was important. And then the dynasty and the empire that Thug was building really went to another level.
Once he found himself in a position to offer, to reach back and pull people like Gunna, and through the vision, through the art and the execution of that art, a Young Thug, all of that was made possible. I don't really know anything about the other stuff that they're talking about because I haven't seen that.
In Atlanta today, we just learned minutes ago.
More charges against the rapper Young Thug.
He is one of 28 people named in a massive gang indictment.
I always use my music as a form of artistic expression, and now I see that black artists, rappers, don't have that freedom.
The Grammy winner accused of founding a gang allegedly linked to several murders in Atlanta.
Many of the charges related to the indictment points to Young Thug's rap lyrics as evidence.
Take it to trial. Take this mother trial.
Good morning, Mr. Jeffery Williams. Be aware that on this calendar you are here because you have been indicted under 22 SC 182273 for conspiracy to violate the racketeer influence and criminal street gang activity.
I'm concerned with a human being who's wrongly charged. I knew right away that he's been targeted for 10 years by the prosecution. This is a wrong prosecution and I will defend him.
You're saying your client is completely innocent.
Mr. Williams is wrongly charged on every single count.
The rapper who goes by Young Thug, he's accused of racketeering, making terroristic threats, theft, renting a car used in a murder, and participating in a criminal street gang as one of its organizers.
It does not matter what your notoriety is, what your fame is. If you come to Fulton County, Georgia, and you commit crimes, and certainly if those crimes are in furtherance of a street gang, that you are going to become a target.
Prosecutors and DA, they're actually listening. They're watching social media accounts. They're pretty much tracking these artists nationwide.
YSL is a record label that started in 2016, and the prosecution is saying that the record label is connected to street gang activity. It also goes on to say that YSL is a criminal street gang that started in 2012 off of Cleveland Avenue in Atlanta, and it claims the founder of all of this, the mastermind, was Jeffery Williams. Right now, what we're seeing play out is two different descriptions of who Jeffery Williams is. One is being portrayed by prosecutors, and the other one is being described by those closest to him.
Yes.
My YSL means young successful life because that's something that he has created. He is a young successful man himself, but also he is helping more young men and young women.
He is the one they're all afraid of. He's the one that's King Slime. He is the most dangerous of the 28, Judge.
Jeffery Williams is a father. He is a son.
I've also started a company with Jeffrey called Young Stoner Life. I wanted to back him personally and professionally.
As the district attorney of Fulton County, my number one focus is targeting gangs.
He's like the easy target. So if somebody gets arrested and gets in trouble and they want a deal, law enforcement officers are all too eager to say, well, tell us about Mr. Williams. Is he involved in this? What do you know about him?
The Jeffrey I know would take care of my kids. The Jeffrey I know will build a business and create multi-millionaires. The Jeffrey I know will make sure that his nieces and nephews and your nieces and nephews had the opportunity to go to school. So the Jeffrey they're talking about, I just don't know that Jeffrey.
So who's really on trial?
It's not about YSL. It's not about Gunna Thug. This is about freedom of speech.
A danger to others and a danger to the community. I'm gonna set him for no bond at this point in time.
Jeffery Williams is a hero, not a criminal.
It's protect black art, protect our rights, protect our freedom of speech, protect creative expression.
We need to protect freedom of speech, especially when it comes to art.
My art is not a reflection of my character.
So who's really on trial?
This is not about YSL. It's not about Gunna Thug. This is about freedom of speech.
Came straight from the bottom to the top of my lifestyle. We ran on digits, we ran on that money, we ran on digits, we ran on that money.
And I came from penny pinch, came out there struggling.
Hi, my name is Kevin Lyles. It's no secret that people of color are under attack every day.
The petition really started to spread like wildfire on social media. As soon as it was posted, so many prominent artists started to speak on behalf of it and why it's needed, and then it garnered more than 60,000 signatures. And what it really is trying to do is it's trying to make a case for rap lyrics, that it does not, by any circumstances, belong in the courtroom.
Good morning, Mr. Jeffery Williams. Be aware that on this calendar you are here because you have been indicted.
Yeah, the indictment says the lyrics show involvement in some of the crimes those people are accused of. But could there be First Amendment issues? Young Thug songs used as evidence with lyrics such as, I never killed anybody, but I got something to do with that body.
I never killed anybody, but I got something to do with that body.
If this is how the system treats them, then imagine how it treats other Black Americans day in and day out who aren't famous or well known.
When we see the Protect Black Art movement, it's in response to rap lyrics on trial time and time again. And what it's really doing is igniting decades-long conversation that we've been having.
We, the jury in above entitled action, find the defendant, Calvin Brodus, not guilty of the crime of murder in the first degree.
Now, the most notorious case involving lyrics in courtrooms is Snoop Dogg in 1996, where prosecutors ended up quoting lyrics in his legal case, and more recently, NBA YoungBoy's trial, where his music was also brought up in the courtroom by prosecutors, but the judge ended up excluding it as evidence. All those cases are just to name a few. The debate lies between artistic expression and real-life experiences, and what it really comes down to is who is interpreting and for what reason.
Gangster rap has become incredibly popular and profitable by selling lyrics about black-on-black violence.
So we're not against rap. We're not against rap.
Rappers, but we are against those thugs.
Art has to be dangerous for it to be interesting. And art has always been a sense of danger. It has some type of danger in it.
That's what music is. We are able to tell a story with our lyrics. Whether it's their story or not, they're telling a story. So if you lose that art of storytelling, you're gonna lose the art of music.
They say you're poor cause you're black, right to your face.
Sometimes rappers, they exaggerate. Sometimes they say things that may not necessarily be true.
A lot of, if not most of, the artists come from the projects. They come from broken homes. So if that's the environment that you come from, that's what you're gonna talk about.
I have some legal advice. Don't confess to crimes on rap lyrics if you do not want them used.
It should never be used in courtroom unless the prosecution can show that that lyric is a admission or confession.
Black art, it seems like that's the only form of art that's ridiculed in that way, where prosecutors are using.
A lot of times people can't separate reality from fiction. However, it's very easily done when we're talking about films, very easily done when we're talking about video games. The people who created Grand Theft Auto, they're not being brought up on charges.
It's the rap music that creates this fear. It's not happening in other genre of music.
Johnny Cash said, I
shot a man in Reno
to watch him die. You know, I shot the sheriff.
I didn't shoot no deputy.
This ain't the first time, but it's rap music. And because it's rap music and it was born and bred out of some place that a lot of people don't understand, we're constantly attacked.
This is a nationwide conversation, but at the state level, with California, with New York, here in Georgia, with a legislation that's also proposed by Hank Johnson, there is this movement to protect lyrics from being used in courtrooms. And I feel like this is really the beginning. We're going to see it play out in other states as well.
I believe in the First Amendment. It's one of our most precious rights. However, the First Amendment does not protect people from prosecutors using it as evidence.
People are pulling lyrics from people's Instagram and their demo tapes and TikTok, and they're using this as evidence. We can't do that. It creates a horrible, horrible precedent. What's next?
Tried me, almost got popped in Linux. Ask the cops, ask the detectives, they know all the business. Ask the cops and the detectives of all the jurisdictions.
I'm using those lyrics. I'm gonna continue to do that. People can continue to be angry about it.
There's a lot on the line, no matter which side of the spectrum you agree with.
It has become so controversial because the same lyrics that have made some of these artists famous, from a law enforcement standpoint, they're incriminating.
We have to ask ourselves, why is this the only art form that is spoken of being brought into court? I think it's an attack on culture more than anything.
It's not an attack on hip hop, it's an attack on crime. You can't say I'm an artist, but still have your feet in the street doing crime.
This may be a watershed moment in hip hop where artists may be more careful about what they put out, and also the labels as well.
If Black art doesn't get protected, what will happen to the industry?
It's going to crumble, period.
Mr. Williams, good morning, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Given what's been proffered thus far, I'm going to set him for no bond at this point in time. I'm not going to grant bond at this point in time. I'm going to deny bond at this time.
What does that say about the state of the culture?
I don't think it says anything about the state of the culture. I think what does it say about the state of our judicial system? And our country constantly reminds us every day how you are black. You have a permanent tattoo, therefore you will be treated differently in this country.
Now is the time to plot, plan, strategize, organize, and mobilize.
But keep your feet underneath you. Keep moving.
What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now!
When it's black men in America, is it often guilty until found innocent?
Absolutely.
Tell me about that.
Absolutely. I think that, you know, the black men have always been, you know, the criminals or the villains that society could hang their hat on. Anytime there's a crime being committed, if someone says a black person did it, they stop looking for any other option.
If we don't get it, shut it down. If we don't get it, shut it down.
Unfortunately, black men in our communities, in the poor sections of our communities, have been socially, politically, and economically and academically alienated. I wonder why, as a community, we're not seeing the bigger picture of, is that our culture? I think as a community, we're missing an opportunity to actually evolve our culture and change some things systemically.
We are going to prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law.
He is the one they're all afraid of. He's the one that's king slime.
Why does hip hop oftentimes feel like public enemy number one in courtrooms? Is it because it's misunderstood?
Well, for one, because it's honest.
Growth is a hell of a thing when you're allowed to grow.
I'm going to deny bond at this time.
This is a system not built to help you. I was a part of the problem myself. I grew up, you know, single parent home, hood, locked up at 18, faced, you know, all types of consequences because of my actions.
They don't want to see themselves as being part of the problem. They don't want to see themselves as ignoring a community that needs help when they have an opportunity and an ability to help them. It holds the mirror up.
But nobody's tackling the thing that causes all of this stuff, which is lack of education, poverty, value systems. Nobody wants to touch that stuff.
But why isn't this story being told?
Why isn't this story being told? Why is that story being told so much? What I have seen is a young man bring himself, his family, and the people around him up from nothing. And he's been selfless in doing so. That's what I saw.
This has been a conversation that's been happening for a long time. And what people like Kevin Liles are trying to do is connect the dots of societal issues and how this is a multi-layered problem that needs to be addressed systemically.
Violence erupted after the acquittal of 4 white policemen in the beating trial of black motorist Rodney King.
We thought we saw the worst of it with Rodney King, but now we know we didn't. But now they're locking us up because of the very lyrics that 90% of the world loves today. We still have a systemic racist problem here in America. And I think that Protect Black Art is a movement to help get through this side of it, but that we have more things to deal with.
So you look at hip hop, you listen to it, you're influenced by it, but do you really understand what you're listening to? Do you know what it's a reflection of? Do you know what that person survived?
They're not trying to protect you, but you should be trying to protect yourself. The game is, to be honest, get in this, get all the money, all the relationships, you know what I mean? And then go do something that can fortify generational wealth.
Listen, guys, this is what he does. I've been how to rap. Nobody didn't believe me.
You could say this is a deep dive into the life of Jeffery Williams. You could also easily say this is a backwards domino effect into how we got here today and how we're hoping to spark the type of conversations that we're not seeing in the headlines.
But Willis's case has proved controversial not for taking on violence, but for something she's doing in court, criminalizing art, poetry, and lyrics as evidence.
It's not justice for all. It's justice that's to make it make sense for those of us who are not us.
These are serious times. They're serious allegations, and it is my opinion that violence in our community deserves maximum penalties.
I just want to say thank you to all my friends and my family for coming out and supporting us. And for your support during this time means a lot to us.
Jeffrey, I feel like I used to hate that name so much, but now I'm understanding the name.